welcome to this month's Wallace Branch Bird Talk. Since Thanksgiving is just around the corner, I figure we talk about Meleagris gallopavo, or more commonly known as the wild turkey. I'm sure you are pretty familiar with this bird. You see we got the male up here in the upper corner, and the female. This is sort of the typical eastern phenotype. We'll go into more detail about that in just a second. But we're also going to learn a little bit about where they live, a little about their ecology, and a handful of fun bits of trivia about these wonderful birds. This won't be an exhaustive look at their life history, but if you want to learn more by the end, I'll provide links to all the resources I used to put this together. There's some great stuff on the web that you can read about these birds. And yeah, so let's get going. And we'll first talk about how to ID these birds. So, let's see. So this image that we have here, this is a chart courtesy of the Pennsylvania Game Commission, illustrations by Bob Sobchak. So males, aka gobblers, they're larger, more iridescent. They have this beard made of feathers. They're called mesophiloplumes. They're kind of the feather analog to hair. The feathers on the males only come to the base of the head / neck. They have a wattle. They typically have black-tipped breast feathers. And you'll see they also have these leg spurs here. And oddly enough, the droppings between the male and the female are different as well, with the males being more J-shaped and the females being more kind of spiral globular looking. So these are the females. They're smaller. They're more dully brown colored. Feathers come all the way up to the face. You see they don't really have spurs like the males do. Beards, they do happen, but they're very rare. The breast feathers tend to be more buff-tipped as opposed to the black tips of the males. And we mentioned again that their droppings are more coil-shaped. So juveniles, they have longer central tail feathers than adults. You can see here. So this would be, like if this was a juvenile male, this would be in its second year. It'd look a lot like this guy, but the tip will be longer, and their beards tend to have, they tend to be shorter and be more amber tipped. Of course, you can also identify them by their loud gobbling call. They are quite loud indeed. And so, this is what a baby turkey looks like. When they hatch out of the nest, they're what's called precocial, which means as soon as they hatch out, they're ready to run around and they're already on the move. As opposed to like songbirds, what you're probably more familiar with, they're naked and helpless. Those are called altricial young birds. It's pretty common in non-songbirds, particularly birds with similar kind of gallinaceous, that's the term for it, like they like big open fields, tend to be more precocial. This bird is probably no more than a week and a half, and you see it's already perched. When most songbirds, when they hatch, they're the week and a half, they're still pretty helpless, and they may just be getting some pin feathers. And just absolutely adorable little bird. Alright, so moving on. Identification. So, birds, like other animals, can have variations in their appearance depending on their geographic location. According to the National Wild Turkey Federation, there are 5 documented subspecies in addition to the typical eastern bird in the U.S., which is the bird we looked at in the first. So this is kind of your stereotypical eastern turkey. And you see here, we have some of these other phenotypes. Phenotype is basically the physical appearance of an animal, of a living creature. So the known regional variations are the eastern, Ascolia or Florida turkey, Rio Grande, Merriam's, Gould's, and the ocellated turkey. So, as we've covered before, the eastern is the stereotypical subspecies that we're all familiar with, but all of them, you can see them and recognize them as turkeys. with a few slight differences such as size, color, tail feather tips. For example, the Merriam's turkey, which is this one right here, that's found in the Rocky Mountains, has this brilliant white tail band at the end of its feathers. They're very beautiful. And the Eastern, though, they have, let me get my picture, more of a kind of chestnut brown tips to their feathers. So another thing, you may have heard this term before, but morphs or phases are basically plumage color variations that consistently appear in populations. It's the same concept as when you go into a city and you see pigeons with different plumages than what you'd consider from your textbook rock dove. You know, you got your ones that are kind of speckled, that are more kind of caramel and cream colored. So the commonly known morphs are the smoky gray, erythristic, which is mostly light browns and has a overall kind of lack of the darker pigments. You have your melanistic, which are much darker, almost black. This is a melanistic species. And leucistic, which is partially albino, which is missing a lot of its color. So the smoky gray, this one right here, if you can see it, I'll give you a closer look. This is technically a leucistic bird. You see there's a lot of white there, but there's still some pigments. It still has some of those pigments. So what's the difference between leucistic and albino? A lot of times the terms are used interchangeably, but an albino animal actually completely lacks pigments. They'll have the pink eyes, and they will be completely white, and they are actually incredibly, incredibly rare, in the wild at least. So, kind of give you an idea of what a heuristic individual looks like. As you can see, it barely has any dark pigments. It has some, but overall it's lacking a lot of the ones that we've seen in the other phases, the other morphs. Another reason I wanted to show off this picture is because the bird has a radio tracking device you can see here. Something ornithologists commonly use to track movement patterns of birds. Most commonly, radio devices are put on larger birds like turkeys, albatrosses, larger shorebirds, but they're also sometimes used for smaller birds like red knots, which are a fairly small species of sandpiper. And they'll fit tiny little trackers, but with bigger birds like turkeys, you get these huge radio trackers that they put on their backs. Just something cool I figured I'd point out. So next we're going to talk a little bit about habitat and range. So this is a range map courtesy of the Audubon Society. The darker areas, like around here, this is where turkeys are more common, and these paler areas is where they're a little bit less common. They're most often found in woodlands and open clearings among said woodlands, but due to overhunting and habitat destruction, they've declined over much of their historic range. But thanks to reintroduction efforts and better land and game management, their population has begun to grow again. They're now sometimes even seen in suburban areas. You can see on this range map, again, where it's kind of fragmented more out in the west, and that's likely from reintroduction efforts from conservationists to expand their range and population, as well as restored in areas where they had been previously hunted off or seriously reduced. Fun fact, they are also found in Central America as well as here in North America. There's actually 2 species of turkey, and I'll just touch a little bit on the other one at the end of this presentation. And of course, you know, turkeys are also commonly domesticated and kept on farms. So now we're going to touch a little bit on their ecology and behavior. So they're very social birds. Males operate in what are called leks, which in the breeding season, you'll have a bunch of males just kind of scattered out in the field, displaying for the attention of females. The young are only cared for by the females. The males, once they mate, they're off. They may hang around, but they're not taking care of the chicks at all. I mentioned earlier about them being precocial. So as soon as they hatch, they are up and running. They're, you know, adorable, and they're ready to eat on their own. They're ready to run around on their own. Now, lone turkeys do exist as well. They're typically older individuals. It's kind of a common thing you see in social animals. It's kind of sad, but it does happen. So wild versus domestic. The wild turkeys tend to be very skittish, very wily. But anyone who's spent time on a farm can tell you that the domestic animals, just like anything else that's been domesticated, tends to be a little bit more slow-witted, a little bit friendlier, because it's used to people. So their diet consists mainly of insects and seeds, with acorns being a particular favorite. And of course, you know, corn. It's particularly when they are domesticated. And so where they sit on the food chain is they are primarily a prey species. They do eat some insects, but bobcats, coyotes, wolves, anything bigger than a turkey will likely try to eat the turkey. Gobble, gobble. Alright, so now let's end things up with some fun facts about the turkey. So, did you know, as I mentioned earlier, there are actually two species of turkey. There's the wild turkey, and then there is the ocellated turkey of Central America, which we have a picture of right here. They're very beautiful individuals. This is a male. You see he's very colorful. We're not going to go, if you want to learn more about that, you can check out the Audubon Society. You can check out the link here. Furthermore, according to the All About Birds website from Cornell Lab of Ornithology, not only were turkeys imported from Central America to Europe by settlers when they first arrived here, but that there's also a strong fossil record of them due to their compact bone structure and popularity as food. And then finally, so contrary to what you may have been told, the idea that Benjamin Franklin preferred the wild turkey to the bald eagle as our national symbol is not entirely true. According to the Franklin Institute's website, he did defend the wild turkey's strength of character against the bald eagles, saying that the latter was a bird of bad moral character, and the turkey being, though a little vain and silly, a bird of courage. However, he never proposed it as our national symbol. I, for one, think it would be a great national symbol. So thank you all again for listening. Just want to go ahead and give you my sources in case you want to go and check out some of these facts for yourself, learn a little bit more about the turkey. This is where all the information I got today came from. And again, on behalf of the Wallace Branch Library, I thank you again for coming, and happy Thanksgiving.